So, section 2, we're getting to grips with the difference between numbers and text and getting used to telling Python what type of data we're dealing with. Also looking at single line and multi-line comments. So continuing with the hello world, we're going to have a look at strings, integers, floats, and joining strings with strings, joining strings with integers. But before we do this, I just want to go through commenting code. So we can comment code out so the computer doesn't read it. If we use a hashtag, then it should highlight in red, depending on which platform you're using, and then you can write anything you want and the computer won't read it. So for example, this is my code. Now the reason for doing this is you can leave yourself notes. You can leave notes for other programmers that are working on the same piece of code as you. Also, if there's lines of code that you've done and you're not sure if you need them anymore, you can comment them out. So using the hashtag gives us a single line comment. So you may see throughout this course that I'm using the hashtag and commenting out code. That's because I don't want the computer to read that line of code. So moving on, having a look at the hello world. Hello world at the moment is text, and the computer sees text as a string. We tell Python it's a string by using these speech marks here. It's also highlighted in green, so we know that Python is seeing this as text, or a string as we should call it. If I want to let Python know that it's an integer or float, a float being a number with decimal places, then if I don't put the speech marks, then Python will see this as a number. If I run this, so F5 or FN and F5 if you're on a Mac, then we can see here so far we have hello world and 10. Now, just to show you the difference, if I do, for example, print 10 plus 10 and run, then obviously the answer is 20, as we can see just here. But if I do print the string of 10 plus 10, then the answer is very different, because now I've made this a string, Python does not know it's a number. So again, F5 to run, and we can see here Python's joined them together 1010 because it thinks this is text. Now we can mix text with numbers if we want. So if I do, for example, hello world 2020, then although this is a number, Python just sees the 2020 as being text. So again, run, and here we can see hello world 2020. Okay, before we move on, this was a single line comment. Now let's have a look at the multi-line comment. So I can comment all 5 of these lines out by using 3 single quotation marks. And then I need to tell Python where to end this multi-line comment by using 3 single quotation marks. Now, a single quotation mark is different than a double quotation mark. So this being a double quotation mark and this being 2 single quotation marks. Now, they are very different, and I sometimes get students who have an error with their code, and it's because they've used 2 single quotation marks instead of the double quotation marks. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at joining a string with a string and a string with an integer. So, for example, if I do print and then hello plus and then world separate. So I'm joining the 2 together with this plus sign here. Now, it won't look very neat. In fact, I'm just going to close this one down and reopen it so it comes at the top. And run again. So it won't look very neat because there's no space after the hello and world. If I was to put a space after hello there and then run this again, that will look neater. There is another method of doing this. So here we can see there's a space in there now. The other method of doing this is we can use the comma. So print hello, I don't need to put a space in the comma, and then world and F5 to run. And we can see that by doing this method, which is the second line here, Python has put the space in for us. Now there is a difference between using the plus and the comma, which we'll go into at a later video. For now, let's see what happens if we do, for example, we try to join this with a number. So if I just copy this and paste, and then instead of world, let's do, in fact, I can do another one. I can delete there and plus 2020. We will get an error now because I'm trying to mix a string with a number. Okay, so here's the error. The first two worked, which are these two lines of code here, which show this. And then the next one we got an error. Now it's saying we can only concatenate strings with strings, and concatenate meaning join the two together. It's showing us the line of code that the error is on, and it's saying here it's line 13. Now sometimes the error is above the line that it actually tells us. In this case that's not true. Okay, so to fix this, if I do join this string and then tell Python to treat the next part of the code, so treat this integer for this occasion as a string. So hello world plus the string of 2020. If I just put the space in there to make it look neat, then this should now work. Now, joining strings with integers, we will be doing a lot of this, and you will be doing a lot in your programming. So this is, although it doesn't make sense on this occasion, this is an important skill to have in Python. So here we can see that that has worked, hello world 2020. Okay, and I'm just going to move this multi-line comment so we can comment these out. And then we can also do the same thing with numbers. So for example, I could say print 2020 plus the integer being whole number of 2030. 2030 is a number, and I'm telling Python to see it as a number, even though at the moment I've created it as a string because I've put the speech marks. Remembering that I need to close the same amount of brackets that have been opened, this should work. So again, let's run. And okay, that's worked there, 4050. So it's added the two numbers together. Now that would not work if I put, for example, join the number of 2020 with the integer of hello world. Hello world is definitely text, it's certainly not an integer, so we will get an error message if we do this. Okay, so here's the error message. It's telling us which line it's on, and it's saying that we cannot use an integer with a string such as hello world. Okay, so let's comment this out. And the last thing is floats. So for example, a float, if I simply do 10.55 plus 10.23, for example, then because they have a decimal place, these are a float. In the next videos, we'll have a look at how we can tell Python how many decimal places we want to use, etc. But if we create that number with a decimal place, then effectively we've created a float, which is a number with decimal places. If I just run this, and then we'll see that will give us the answer. Okay, here we have 20.78. Okay, that's it for this video. This is building on your basic skills. I hope you enjoy learning, and I will see you in the next video.